to today's episode of the Opportunity Podcast. I'm really excited because this is the first, but of probably, hopefully, many tennis players. My 5-year-old daughter, Ronnie, her favorite sport right now is tennis. It's got to be tennis. So we've got a freshman at Vanderbilt, Valeria, super highly ranked, I believe, coming into Vanderbilt, and someone who has had a lot of success. She's from Florida, but at Vanderbilt, state champion in high school, I think more than once too. So I cannot wait to hear more about you. But why don't you just give us a little bit about who you are and your background in tennis?
Yeah, of course. So, I'm Valeria. My parents are Venezuelan. I have a Hispanic background. I'm from Miami, Florida. And I began playing tennis when I was 4. Uh, my brother started playing it first, just for fun, and I was like doing swimming at the same time because I was asthmatic. So they told me to play tennis, to do swimming, piece of lung capacity and all of that. And then I saw my brother taking a tennis lesson, and I was like, Mom, I want to try that. And I took my first lesson, and here we are.
That, looking at like tennis in comparison to a lot of sports, every sport takes a lot of dedication and time. But there is this, like, I think with tennis players, this obsession, and it's like that's all you eat, sleep, and breathe. Is that kind of how you grew up, where even from 4 years old it was tennis, tennis, tennis?
Honestly, no, growing up, it was not like that. I was one of the few in like the tennis tournaments that I went to regular school for most of my life. But it is true, most tennis players grow up in homeschooling like since they're in elementary school, basically. I was a little bit different. I told my parents, no, I want to stay in regular school. I want to play high school tennis, all of this. But then COVID hit, and then that's where my parents were like, okay, I mean, you're already going to be doing online school. Might as well just make it official and make the transition even easier. And I feel like that's when I kind of gave the big step in my career. Um, but yeah, it is a lot of training. It's a precision sport, so it takes a lot of reps. And yeah, it takes a lot of practice, definitely.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, you had some junior success. You've played in like doubles into the quarterfinals at like junior Wimbledon, and you've played at some amazing like the venues to play at. At what age do you think you were like, oh, I want to be there. I want to keep pursuing this at a really high level and play in college. Like, what age did that happen at?
Um, Honestly, it happened pretty early. Ever since I was a little kid, I had really big ambitions. I dreamt early. And honestly, I was always kind of like top in every age group. So as I kept on going forward, the dream just kept on going. But of competing in the high stages of junior tennis, like of ITFs, of Junior Wimbledon, US Open, all of that, kind of came after I won Orange Bowl. Uh, that kind of came after where I was kind of like, okay, I can really be playing in these really big stages. I mean, I'm already doing it. Uh, so that's kind of where it came more realistic, to be
Yeah.
honest.
And trophies are a cool thing to win, but you mentioned the Orange Bowl. It's literally like, if you haven't seen a picture of it, it's like it was a glass bowl filled with oranges, and that was the thing. Do you have any of the oranges still?
No, so funny you mention it. It was during COVID. So my when I won it, I was like, oh my God, I want to win. I like want to eat my oranges, whatever. My parents were like, no, you can't eat them. Like, what if they have COVID? Because it was like mid pandemic. So fun fact, I was never able to eat one of my oranges.
Oh no.
And no, I do not. They're real oranges, so no, I don't have them yet.
Okay, so it was trying times for that. So had a lot of success there. Thinking about college tennis, how did you end up at Vanderbilt? What was special about there that's where you decided?
So I was I was really looking for a school that had the academic and the athletic part of it. Um, Obviously, my goals are to go pro someday. I don't know if I have like like a spike during college or if that's after college. Whenever it's gonna be, I want to give it a try. So I was really looking for a really good program, but at the same time, I felt like I wanted to use my time in college to get a really good degree. Um, and I mean, the coaches here, the staff, Nashville's a great city. Coming from a big city like Miami, I was really looking for a big city. I don't think I would have survived in like a college city or college town. So I really like wanted like a big city, and I mean, I feel like Bandy just checked off all of it. So
Nice. So, being a freshman, you've obviously played at a super high level as it is. Has anything changed just kind of like early in your college tennis career in terms of like atmosphere and just the inner workings of that versus some of the junior circuit stuff you've done?
definitely a lot. It was kind of like a 180 change. I mean, when you're playing in these very high junior tournaments, you're kind of like alone. You're traveling alone. I mean, I would travel with my mom, but most of these players are usually traveling with their coaches. Um, and I mean, you're going to another atmosphere where it's just you're traveling with a team, you're traveling with coaches, you're traveling with. It's just, in my opinion, it's so much fun, and it's a very different atmosphere because you're playing at the same time as all your other teammates, and you need to be focused in your match, but you also need to be focused in cheering on like them because I mean we all depend on each other, but it takes a lot of concentration to just stick to your match because obviously the team needs your match as well. So it's very loud, louder than juniors. Obviously, it's college atmosphere. So yeah, there's a lot of changes, honestly.
Well, and that I think that's a big thing from the outside looking in at tennis is, and you said it can be a little like you're by yourself. Singles tennis, like it is you and your, the head between your shoulders all the time. How do you balance a lot of that? Like my wife played it, doubles tennis, and she's like, that's where I learned to curse as a kid was 100% because of tennis. So how do you like that kind of being, responsible for yourself, and how do you kind of balance the mental side of the game?
So I the mental part of tennis has always been my personal struggle. I'm a very emotional player. So kind of like ending junior tennis and then coming into college, what I've been like working on is kind of like just channeling all that emotion into like focus and concentration, just like, fight to keep on going even when things are not going your way on the court. Because honestly, that is the hardest part of this sport, the mental aspect of it. It's just brutal. You can be out there for, I mean, so many hours. Um, and it's just you and your other opponent. It's just you two. You can only help yourself out there. Um, uh, Another difference with junior tennis is that here in college tennis we're allowed coaching. So we kind of have a coach there on the sideline, kind of telling us like, hey, you might want to try doing this. But at the end of the day, your mind decides what you want to do, and it's just you out there. So it is a very big challenge, and it's definitely a work in progress. I feel like for most players, um, but it's definitely hard. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that, at your age versus even where you see top players in the game and like the primes of their career, they talk about that like, oh, that's a struggle for me. You see some, especially some top women players who are like, I'm passionate out there, like I want to win. It's all about in my head, and you can be on an island for a few for a few hours, and momentum's a real thing, and it can be a challenge to flip the switch back to like, okay, I've got this. Like it takes a lot. So we're I'm pulling for you in the journey. That's like got to be the craziest thing that you're out there on your own. So with kind of, the passion that you have for the game and a little bit of a tweak and different environment, what what is kind of like your college lifestyle kind of looking like versus, COVID happened, you did more of the online type school, focus on the tennis, playing those junior circuits where you're by yourself, and now you do find yourself with like teammates and coaching and just a different city to be in. How has that kind of transition gone over for like you and your family? Like, are they coming out from Miami to watch? How's the transition going?
So, I thought it was going to be such a big transition for me. I lived in Miami my whole life. I was born and raised. Never lived anywhere else. And I actually had the same coach from when I started playing till now. Since I was 4 up until now. So I knew that was going to be such an impact for me. Um, and many people have asked me like, why didn't you just stay at like University of Miami? And I'm like, honestly, I thought of it, but then I was like, I want to be able to like at some point in my life, I'm gonna have to like get out of this small bubble that I've been in my whole life. So I just I like it was a very big step. And again, the whole I trained in an academy, so training from an academy with like a private coach to like having teammates and everyone just it's like a everyone's contributing to like help each other out, which I love. It's honestly one of the best parts of college tennis. It's a very like selfless environment. Everyone's just, being vulnerable and everyone's just like, hey, like if you ever need something, if someone needs anything, you're always there. School wise, I after COVID, since I started doing online, it's a question people ask me a lot, like how the transition from like regular to online school was, and like back to regular school now was. Honestly, for me, it was not that hard considering that I went to high school up until like freshman year. So I only did like 3 years of online school. So I still remember how to deal with assignments and tennis and that whole balance. So coming here at Vandy, obviously academics are very hard, but I feel like I still had that discipline from when I went to regular school. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it seems like you like people, so I guess that's a good thing that you can be back at class and be on a campus and do those things. So you talked about having the same, at home coach basically since the time you were 4 years old. Who the heck is that? Like who find like did was that just somebody you guys already knew and they just dropped you in, or were you identified as like, oh, this 4 year old, like she's got it?
Honestly, so his name is Manny. He was 22, 23 at that time. He was just getting out of college. Um so again, my brother he wasn't like the he was just like a hitting partner type coach at that time. And my brother started taking classes at the academy that was there at that time. And again, I was like, Mom, I want to try whatever. And my mom puts me in a class, and out of coincidence, he walks in. He's like, that little girl knows how to play. How long has she been playing? And the coach at that time that was like feeding me balls was just like, oh, she's just been playing for like 3, 4 months. And he was like, tell her to come back at 6 p.m. tomorrow and for like the more advanced group. And that's where we started. And that he just saw something special in me. And I feel like we've really connected since I've always been a disciplined child. I love working hard. I'm very disciplined, determined. Like I will do anything possible to like get what I want and like my goals and stuff. And he really likes that. He's very similar in those terms. And as I grew up, it was just kind of like a coach and student relationship, but then it also grew more into like a big brother and little sister. And now we just consider him family. So yeah.
That's really cool. Well, in terms of like goals and, you know, being in the college kind of environment, do you have any goals over the next couple of years that are more involved with, the college atmosphere and how that play goes?
Oh, I mean, I feel like for every college tennis player, the goal is essentially to either win to win a national championship, whether it's in teams, singles, or doubles. I feel like that's the main goal by the end of this. But speaking more, long, like short term, long term, it would be more like, just improving my game. I came to college to kind of do that big step and, fill in the small gaps in my game to, eventually become pro. And that's something I really thought coming to college would do for me. And it has definitely done it so far. So definitely in terms of, development, it would be that. But I mean, end goal is uh, winning an SEC championship or just at some point winning a national championship would just be an absolute dream.
Yeah, that something you can look back on, and that can never be taken away from you. Regardless of what you do in the future and the big things you've got going on. When you look at something like those kinds of goals and what you're doing college wise, do you consume and watch a lot of tennis on the off time? Are there players that you like to watch and aspire to play like?
Yeah, so I always grew up watching men's tennis more than women's tennis. I don't know why I really love watching men's tennis. It's just so entertaining for me. But I feel like as I grew older, I started watching women's tennis as well, and I related so much more, obviously, because I feel like in women's tennis there's more momentum change, more ups and downs than in men's. I feel like men's is just like, there can be a clear winner most of the times. Women's is just you don't know who's gonna win. Which I really like that an underdog doesn't specifically have to be an underdog. Um, but yeah, I as a child I grew up watching Rafa, especially Rafa. I love Roger. Um, and I mean, I also watched the Williams sisters. Right now, I really love Sabalenka. I love her game style. It's just, and then Iga's mental strength is just insane. So there are a couple of players I did grow up watching, but I would say I would stick mostly to Roger and Rafa for sure.
Nice. Well, and when you look at some of those, obviously, once you are on that pro level, like all that matters is grand slams. And when you talk about those two guys, it's like that's if you're watching a grand slam tournament, odds are you're watching those two and semifinals and finals like every single tournament, which is just mind blowing. And I think we're starting to see some more of that, like in the women's game too, of just like the strength of play of like Sabalenka and Iga. It's like, well, they're just there, and as soon as you're like, I can be a little passionate out there, I instantly thought of Sabalenka. It's like she's just like heart on her sleeve, and she wants to win, and she's like working like crazy to do it, and if that costs a racket or two in the process, I guess that's the cost of that. um is that something, mentally wise, when you look at strong women players and strong male players, that you look at things about their personality and style that you keep in the back of your own mind of what it looks like to be at the top for a long time?
Oh, for sure. So I remember I grew like when Alcaraz started coming up. I was so impressed by his level and how he was able to compete against, I mean, and even beat Djokovic, Rafa, like these big players at such a young age and with like no experience at all. And I feel that really stuck with me. And just, I mean, like he constantly says it, how much fun he's having, he's having out there. And it's something that honestly not even like college tennis players, like just athletes in general forget how much fun you're supposed to have with the sport. And even Sabalenka said it. I mean, she had her peak when she began to, just let everything go and just, play tennis, for the reasons that she even began. She was having fun. And she was just channeling all that energy into just one purpose and, just playing one point at a time. So I feel like there's a very common theme of like these big players who have kind of, found their game and their mental side of it. And it just kind of like, if you're not having fun with it, you're just not going to go anywhere in the sport because it's such a brutal sport mentally and physically that you have to find like some type of fun into it. If not, I don't know. So I feel like definitely watching them help me, on court if it's getting, a little intense out there. I'm just like, you know what, just have fun. Like happens whatever happens, like the sun is still gonna come out the next day. Like you're gonna be fine. Like
Yeah. Well, talking about fun and you're enjoying the atmosphere that you've got right now, is there like a match or a player at another school or anything that you're looking forward to this season of, obviously you got like SEC competition and things like that, but is there anything in particular that maybe you kind of have circled on your calendar that you're just like, this is what I'm here for and this is what it's all about?
honestly, I mean, as of right now, I don't think I have like a certain rivalry against any school because I just haven't played any of them. I just have like played individual players in like the individual tournaments in the fall. And honestly, I would be very excited to play Florida UF just because a lot of my hometown friends go there. So I feel like it would be very fun to just play them.
Well, yeah, that'll be a good like homecoming when you're there too, and you'll have a little bit of unfair support, and they're gonna be like, "What is going on for this Vandy girl over here?" But yeah, that's all exciting. I think that adds to it, and hopefully over the next couple of years, you develop some of that like you know passion towards other teams, or things that
Definitely.
drive you to keep working on it. But I think one of the things I like that you said the best was like, I'm here to fill in some gaps and become, a well-rounded player, and I want to push myself to the next level. Talk a little bit about, obviously you said your brother, was playing a little bit. What's your parents' background and kind of like the support and giving you that mentality, like just to be like laser focused and trying to achieve a goal that you're on your way to.
So, fun fact, I'm the only one in my family that plays tennis. I have no tennis background, honestly, like no athletic background at all. Like my mom's a dentist, my dad's an engineer, my brother's graduating from engineering. My brother was never into much sports. Um, so I was kind of like the outlier in the family, kind of. But I feel like that has benefited me a lot just because I mean, they don't know much about tennis. So they can't really, I feel like a lot of players struggle with the fact that, their parents want to, chime in on their practices, give their opinions and stuff like that, and that can really get to a player's head. So I have been very lucky that my parents just let me do my thing. They, they're just there to support me, and whatever I need, they're gonna be there. They just, I mean, I feel like the key to success has always been they just let Manny, my coach, just let do his job, and for me to be responsible and do my thing too. And they just support. They travel with me. I mean, they're just my support. They are very laid back in that sense, but they
Yeah.
always make sure to remind me that they are happy as long as I mean I'm happy doing the sport I love, and as long as they see me fighting on court. I mean, I feel like with the Hispanic background, that fiery personality really comes
You'll
in.
never stop fighting.
Yeah, so they just make sure that I'm always fighting, giving my best. So
Yeah. Well, that's a really cool thing in itself, just that you don't come from some athletic background, and you don't have anybody like excessively pushing you in a direction you don't want to go. But then at the same time, even though they didn't also come up in the same world that you are experiencing, that they're there like 100%, like give you the coaching, put you in the tournament, get you to homeschool, get you to academy if you need to. Like that seems like a little bit unique that they're, you always want the best for your kid and things like that. But I'll be blamed for this for sure in my life, is like you want to push them to do things if you've experienced things too. And the fact that they hadn't and are just like, oh yeah, if coach said yes, like we're all in. Like, has that support just been like your team around you the whole time, and just giving you the confidence to keep going?
Honestly, yeah, honestly, the as I said, the key has been, and honestly, we developed this trust with Manny, my coach, because it was just kind of like my parents were just like, they don't know anything. So it was like, we don't know any better than what he might be saying. So it was just kind of, and luckily, and it ended up being, he was a great coach. So it ended, we were very lucky in that sense. Um, my dad, I mean, he likes to read a lot. He kind of went educating himself more. He talks to the other parents who do have a background in this. When it came to, I mean, to my parents, just going homeschooled was insane. They had never seen that before. They were like, when they just see these kids in tournaments, and they're like, they're homeschooled, like what? Um, and they just couldn't wrap their heads around it. But as you start getting more into it, you realize that there's a reason that they're doing it. It's because it's necessary. Um, but yeah, they're just there for support. They have never I mean, if I lose, they never get mad at me for playing bad, or if I play great. I mean, they're just like, I mean, you fought well out there. Like that's honestly all they can ask for. And my coach has always done the same thing. He will only get disappointed if I don't fight. But I mean, if a player plays bad, you can't really blame them. It's things that happen in a sport. You're not always gonna play great. Um, but yeah, that's kind of. I mean, my brother as well. He's always just been super supportive. When I was younger, and they just couldn't leave him at home alone, he would come to my tournaments as well, and just spend all weekend there, because it's. I mean, tournaments last, when in juniors last, like the whole weekend. So it was like the whole family just spending the whole weekend at a tennis tournament. So yeah, they've
Yeah.
great support.
What is obviously you've played in a lot of places, juniors, overseas, you've played probably all across the states. Where has been like your favorite kind of like venue, but also just the experience of going to a certain place?
I will have to go with Wimbledon. It's just great, honestly. So in the junior slams, there's four, and I went to U.S. Open, Roland Garros, and Wemby, and Wimbledon was definitely the one I liked the best. The atmosphere, I feel like it has like a sense of prestige that the other ones lack, in a sense. Like just the all white, it's just super formal. And they really let the junior players, like, have the same space as the pros, which is incredibly like insane. I got pictures with like Djokovic, with Alcaraz. Like it was just crazy. Practicing in the court next to like Iga against like Sabalenka, Djokovic, like I had them right there. That was just super cool. And so since I got to quarters of doubles, I was able to play in the bigger courts. So I was able to, I think it was like court three or one. I don't even remember it, but it was a pretty big court. I remember I look over at my doubles partner, and I'm like, wow, that's a pretty big court. And we were playing against two British girls. So there was a lot more crowd, obviously against us, but it was just crazy. We were having a time, honestly. It was great.
That's cool to just take in the moment, but can, hopefully be there again one day. Even just this last year, like watching with those tournaments at like on ESPN Plus and stuff, like they have all the stuff broadcast now, which is really cool to kind of be able to click in and just watch some of the smaller courts and see what's going on, and outside of like the main pro draw. I'm like so mad. I wish I had known you then. I would have been like so excited to like flip it on and watch and cheer you guys on. But outside of like just that environment and being around people you had watched on TV and that you admire, what does that kind of like set the tone for you as far as like mental space of like, yes, this is 100%, like I'm all in, like I need this in my life? Or is it just kind of soaking it in, like, oh, yep, that was cool. I'm just gonna head back and keep doing what I'm doing.
So when you're there, you don't realize how big it is that you're there. Um, and especially that tournament, that was my last junior tournament, so it really hit very different for me. It was kind of like the last like 14 years of my life, just, this, chapter just came to an end. So I remember I went into that tournament, I was like, it's my last one. I mean, I'm gonna make the absolute best out of it. Um, and it's the mindset going into these type of tournaments is just very different. There's a lot of pressure, like a lot of pressure. Um, I mean, everyone from back home is watching, as you said. You can on ESPN Plus, you can see all the courts. So everyone from back home was watching. Um, and it's just a lot of pressure. Honestly, it's a lot. I don't think I had ever felt that much pressure ever. Not even in like finals of like really big tournaments like the one in Orange Bowl. Like it was a lot, but I feel like I was very blessed to have that, opportunity, and I honestly don't think there could have been any better way to end my junior career than playing in Wimbledon. Honestly, it was just insane.
That's super exciting. I know you're going to be back playing in some big tournaments again. One chapter closes, you're in this middle, the next chapter, and we'll see where you go beyond that. But I'll be super excited. I can't wait to catch a couple streaming matches, and I'll show my daughter and be like, look at we talked, and she was 4 also when she started playing. So I look forward to that, but I know you have a lot on your schedule and plate, and I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us for a little bit. And just best of luck this upcoming season, and we hope to see you do great things.
Thank you so much for having me.